Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and give you blessings of life. Father, these prayer requests have been made tonight. You know what each and every one stands in need of, dear God. And we just lift them up to the throne of glory, Father, for you to take care of them. And Father, we ask you especially with Becky Hyde, you know what she's standing in need of. Father, just be with her and just help this transition to be easy for her, dear God. And Father, just go with each and every one of us. Just be with us Bible study tonight. Be with Chris as he teaches us. And just open up our hearts and minds and let us receive that you give us, dear God. And Father, as we go forward, just always just be with us, just lead, guide, and direct us in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
All right, we are out of the lake of fire. And now we're in the good stuff. I'm trying to figure out how much longer we're in this. Maybe 2 more weeks, 3. And after that, more than likely, we're going to be going to Genesis, since we studied the last book of the Bible, the first book. And that's got even more than this. I'm sorry. It's recorded. So, look in verse 1, chapter 21. What is our ultimate goal in life? Let me rephrase that. What should be our ultimate goal in life? To make it to heaven. All right? Now, in all honesty, how many of you guys think of heaven daily? Or think about heaven daily? Don't raise your hands, just to yourself. How many think about heaven daily? Do we believe that there is a heaven somewhere? There is a new well, it's not new. It's been around since the 60s, so it's relatively new when you date it against the Bible. But they say that heaven is not a place, but it is a state of mind. That's not true. Heaven is a place.
Yes.
It is a definite place. What is sad is I've been to a ton of funerals in my life. And everybody that is at every funeral I've ever been to, guess where they all go? They all go to heaven. I've never seen a preacher, and they do it for 2 main reasons. One reason is because you got a grieving family sitting there, and you don't need to get up there and say, listen, I'm just going to go ahead and be honest with you, he probably died and went to hell. To do that, you would have to be heartless. You really would. And there is another reason why people preach them into heaven, and it's mostly out of also ignorance, if they don't know. But our ultimate goal is to, we say make it to heaven or get to heaven, and that is our ultimate goal as a Christian. Now, and there's another question, if God was not in heaven, would we want to go to heaven? He is the only reason that we wanted to go to heaven, right? What are some beliefs on how people get to heaven? Do this, do that, follow this type of law. You follow this type of religion. Every religion, get this, every religion in the world, their ultimate destination is to get to a place, to get to a certain place. Even in Islam, you get the 70 virgins, and you get to a place. That is your ultimate destination. Our ultimate destination is to be in heaven. Right now, as we speak, according to John chapter 14, don't go there, I'll read it. It says, let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. In the Greek, that will say, in my Father's dwelling place. So, not only are we up in heaven with Christ or with God, but we are actually with Him in the same place. Are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. So what is God doing right now is preparing a place for us. God being God, He could prepare a place for us within a split second if He chose. So why do you think that God started preparing a place for us in John chapter 14 and it has taken this long? because He's not willing that anybody die, anybody perish. That is a type of grace that He is prolonging, and He's patient, and He's wanting the gospel to be preached. But there is going to be there's going to be a time when it's going to be finished. When you're building a house, there comes a time when the contractor finally says, "I'm done." If it's a lock and key job, the contractor goes, "Here's your keys. I'm finished. I can't do anything else." One of these days, God is going to say, "Finished. It's done. It is finished." He says, "I'm going to prepare a place for you." And it says, "And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And whither I go, ye know, and the way." So we know the way. We know where He's at. He's in heaven. Now, according to Hebrews chapter 11, this is how this is described. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 10. It says, "For he looked," talking about Abraham, "for he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is God." What is that city? Heaven, the New Jerusalem, right? That is what Abraham is doing. He is traveling. He is looking for a new city. That is what we should be doing. This earth, although we should take care of it, not pollute it, we should take it. This is not our final resting place. This is not what we need to be worried about. This is not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal, of course, is heaven. Now, in Revelation chapter 21, after everything is said and done, after the devil, the false prophet, the non-believers, sin is gone. There's no more sin. Once you get to chapter 21, sin is done. The sin that was brought into the world in the Garden of Eden has been abolished. Satan has finally been abolished. Death has been defeated. Oh, grave, where's our victory? It's done. No more dying. No more anything. It is perfect. A lot of people, this is a thought. A lot of people will say that the new earth or the new heaven, and we'll look at that new heaven, that the new earth, and it is going to be an earth because it is described, it says, "I saw a new heaven and a new earth." But you have to understand there are some words in the book of Revelations that are cryptic and that are symbolic. But then there are some words that when you read it, that's what it means. It's going to be a new earth, a new place. A lot of people say that it's going to be an earth like the original earth, the original Eden, which was perfect. There was no sin. The great thing about Eden is that man walked and talked and communed with God. You remember that Adam would always walk and talk and commune with God early in the morning. So one of the concepts is that the new earth is going to be like the Eden. That is one of the concepts. And if it's made by God and it's breathed by God, it's going to be perfect. And it says, "And I saw," this is John. Now, he says, "I seen a new heaven and a new earth." Okay? "The first heaven and the first earth were passed away." Now, you've got three types of heavens, right? Where's heaven one?
The atmosphere.
Well, we can see the birds. Heaven 2 is the planets, stars, etc. Heaven 3 is where Paul went, and he says, "I was caught up to the third heaven, and I seen things and heard things that I cannot even write down." That is the third heaven. Now, when you're looking at this, a lot of people will say, "I saw a new heaven," that it is a new heaven, the heaven where Jesus lives. It's not it. That is not the heaven he's describing. The heaven he is describing is what ripped apart like a scroll. What had meteors coming out of it? What had all the planets that was being destroyed? It was that second heaven. So when you're looking at this new heaven, it is a new atmosphere. It is a new sky. It is not the heaven that Jesus and God lives in. So why do they need a new heaven? To have something new, it means that the former one, something had to be wrong with it. Is anything wrong with the heaven that Jesus is at now? No. If he would have allowed Satan to stay up there, he would have ruined it. That's why he cast Satan out. Because in order for something to be new, the old one has to be something wrong with it. You get a new car, most of the time, you get a new car because the old one is wore out. For us, you just keep driving them. So he says, I saw a new heaven and I saw a new earth. Now, the new earth has to be brand new because something has been removed from this earth. What is it? Sin. Now, do you remember, it says that I saw, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. And it says, and I saw a great, I'll look at it. I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, whose face the earth and heaven fled away. And that word fled away means to disappear, to poof, gone, to melt away. And the reason you have to have a new heaven and a new earth is because the old heaven and the old earth faded away or melted away in Revelation chapter 20, verse 11. Because of the great white throne judgment. That's why you got to have a new heaven and a new earth. Okay? Because of the presence of that great white throne judgment, it says they fled away or they are gone. And there was no place for them. Now, we get back to Revelation 21. 1 it says, and I saw a new heaven and I saw a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Okay? What is the percentage, college boy, of the earth of water? What is it? 70. Our bodies are made up of how much water? 3/4. Our blood has nearly 90%, nearly 90% H2O water. This is what is interesting. Where did the beast and the false prophet? Where did the false prophet come up from? He come up out of the water. What gave up the dead? The sea. Jews believed, or Hebrews believed, that the ocean was a place of Sheol, that it was a place you just didn't go. It was the place of the damned. Where was? Because you imagine, and this is just kind of off the cuff. You remember when they was on the Sea of Galilee, and there was a great tempest that come up. And if you study this, the reason that they were scared, the disciples, when they woke Jesus up, and then they seen Jesus coming across the water. But the time they woke Jesus up, and it was a great tempest that come, I think it was a Eurongilion is how it's described in the Greek, is the reason they were scared is because they actually thought that if you went into the ocean, or if you got into the ocean, you was basically going down to Sheol. And that is why they were so afraid. And that is why it scared Peter to death. When he starts to drown, save me. He thought he was descending down into Sheol. So that is just that's a Jewish tradition or a Jewish custom. So now the ocean is no more. There's no more sea. And you also have to remember, what is the one thing that was polluted that nobody had any of during the 7-year tribulation? Water. You're gone. So now we have no more ocean, no more. It's all, guess you call it, it's just all green. It's all green. So if you're going on vacation when you're in heaven on this new earth, you're going to have to find you can't go to the beach. And it says that John saw a city, New Jerusalem. Now, you remember we have two views in the book of Revelation. You have a heavenly view, which John is up looking down, and then you have an earthly view, which is John on the earth looking up. John is on the earth looking up because he sees a holy city, a new Jerusalem. Now, the Antichrist takes over the old Jerusalem, and it is described as an Egypt. It is described as a Sodom. So there has to be a brand new Jerusalem that is going to take place. Now, there are 3 types of Jerusalems. There's 3 areas of Jerusalems, okay? There is a Jerusalem of old, the Jerusalem that's here now, that has been here since David found it back in 2 Samuel, 1 Samuel, made it his capital city. There's that Jerusalem that still exists today, okay? And then you have a millennial Jerusalem, because you know that Jesus Christ is going to rule with the rod of iron during the millennial reign. And where is he going to reign from? His city, Jerusalem. And then there's a third Jerusalem, that is this new Jerusalem that's going to come down. It's going to be forever and forever. That is what you call a repetition principle. It is gradually mentioned over and over But not only is it mentioned over and over, it is a change to it. So you have the Jerusalem now, the millennial Jerusalem, and then you have a new Jerusalem that is going to be coming down. And it is a holy city. And it says, and I saw the, it's the only one. It doesn't say I saw the. It's the only one that matters. The holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven. This is very interesting. Prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Now, what is the church described as? Bride. Now, this is not, a lot of people say this is the church coming down from God. It doesn't say that. It says as a type of bride. For all of y'all that still think back when you're standing at the front of the church, or wherever some people got married in Trenton, Georgia. You're standing there, okay, and you're there with your groomsmen and everything, and you're scared to death. Paul, you don't know what we're talking about. And you're scared to death, and all of a sudden they hear that, dun, 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 and the doors come open, and here comes this bride. My dad always said, you can take the ugliest girl in the world. You don't matter how, she's ugly as a mud fence. Put her in a wedding dress, pretty her up a little bit, and she is absolutely breathtaking. Mm-hmm. Guys, when you see that woman, your bride coming down the aisle, it is breathtaking. It's beautiful. So we are looking at a New Jerusalem coming down from heaven. He says it's almost like a groom seeing his bride come down the aisle for the first time. And he says, prepared as a bride adorned, ready for her husband. Now, and I heard a great Megos voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with man. I'll read that again. The tabernacle of God is with men. And he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and of God himself shall be with them and be their God. The tabernacle of God is with men. Do you know who is going to be now the new tabernacle? It's going to be, good job, Jesus Christ. It's not going to be a building of brick and mortar and stone. And that is how you now have you actually have a repetition principle with the tabernacle. You have the tabernacle of the Old Testament. Then you have the tabernacle of Herod. And then you have the tabernacle that is going to be built, or the temple that is going to be built during the 7-year tribulation. And then you have the tabernacle, the temple that is going to be there during the millennial. But then, like Vernon said, there's not going to be a need of one, because Jesus Christ is our tabernacle. He's going to be our temple. And it says, and I saw and this is what is amazing. A lot of people say, this is symbolic. This doesn't mean nothing. It's just, I believe that all of this is real. This is a real place. It's a real city. These are real people that we're going to see. And it says, and I saw a great voice out of heaven, and this is what they are saying. Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them. You remember we talked about the Garden of Eden. What did Adam do in the cool of the evening? Walk with God, talk with him. This is something that is unusual if you're John writing this, and he's Hebrew as Hebrew can be. He's total Jew. When he's writing this, they don't understand how God can dwell with man. Because all they've heard is you can't get near God. He's unattainable. You cannot get near him. Even in the book of Exodus, what did God tell Moses? Listen, before they come up to this mountain, you better put a border around it, because if they get close to it, I want to kill them. They've always been taught God is out there, we're here, we can't get near him. So this is why it is so unusual for the Jews to read this, especially back during John's day. It says, God is with man, and he shall dwell with them. That was unheard of back then. And it says, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them, and be finally going to be their God. A lot of people say, where's heaven? Where's that? Not the New Jerusalem, because you have to remember there's separate. There is a heaven, and then there is a New Jerusalem. And then there's a new earth. Where is heaven at? Point to it. Everybody always says it's up there, right? You can ask any kid, where's heaven? Up there. Well, where is it up there at? Somewhere up there. let's just say we've got the three heavens. We've got heaven that when we can walk outside and look, the heaven of the planets, and then the heaven where Jesus lives at. And I love studying about planets and stuff. They have found a new galaxy, the last galaxy so far they found. Okay, they say there's more they just can't pinpoint them right now. It is called GNZ11. Now remember, a light year is the amount of time that light travels in a year. Okay, light travels at about 184 or 5,000 miles per second. Okay, so if you're in an airplane going 185,000 miles per second, you're going the speed of light. Now, the GNZ11 is 32 billion light years from Earth. Okay? Now, if we were to get into a spaceship to go to GNZ11, we'd have to get into a spaceship that traveled 185,000 miles per second, but it would still take us 32 billion years to get there. And they said there's more. Heaven's beyond that. You know what's amazing? That when somebody takes their last breath, that is a Christian, they travel faster than 185,000 miles per second. It's here on earth now with God. That's amazing to me. That as soon as you take your last breath, you're in the presence of a holy God. That's fast. That's faster than light. Just for instance, if our galaxy, Milky Way, the circumference of it, the area, is 100,000 light years around. We serve a pretty big God, isn't he? And so, that is, I think of is it Elijah when he's caught up in that chariot taken into heaven. He passed Jupiter, Pluto, Mars, GNZ11. It's probably like, hey, GNZ11. Just that quick. It's almost a snap of a finger. And this is what it also needs. When the rapture comes, where we're going to be with Jesus at? In heaven. How fast is it going to take? People, this is what's funny. People will say, during the day, that if the rapture happens during the day, people will see you leave. Really? There's if you're going to travel at least 32 billion light years away, it's quicker than a snap of a finger. That's how fast we're going to be from here to there. Okay? That's always what amazes me, how big our God is. This is what is neat. He's going to be, God himself shall be with them, and he shall be their God. There is a big question that is always asked. And I look this up. A big question that is asked is, are we going to remember things that happen on this earth? What is this earth full of right now? Sin. Go to Isaiah 65:17. Isaiah 65:17. You don't have to go there. Just write it down. I'll get it. For behold, I create new heavens and new earth, and the former shall not be remembered nor come to mind. You know what we're not going to remember in heaven? We're not going to remember old broken bones, cancer, AIDS, mom and dad. We're not going to remember anything sinful, anything bad. Because he tells us, listen, that they are not going to be remembered. Those former things are not going to be remembered. It says, but be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing and her people a joy. Heaven's going to be joyful. There's not going to be any remembrance of anything. Frank's not going to think about that pain pump. It is going to be, everything's going to be new. And it says, and this is why, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more, thank God, death. That, and in all honesty, we often think, we don't need to worry about death. Even the Apostle Paul says to be absent with, present with God, be absent with the body, present with God. I believe the Apostle Paul and Jesus and John the Baptist, I take those three, was basically the only three that really didn't fear death. I honestly think that. Apostle Paul was ready. He was like, I'd go now. Jesus Christ was put on this earth to die. Of course, he rose again. And then John the Baptist, he was willing to lay his life down. What do we, in all honesty, do we lay in bed at night and go, when we think of us dying, do we get a fake smile on our face? We don't want to die, do we? People's like, I'm ready to go to heaven, just don't want to go on the next bus. I want to stay down here. And you know what? That's just human nature. That is just the way we're programmed, the way we're wired. Nobody likes to think about death. Nobody likes to dwell on it. But God's going to wipe away all tears. From our death is going to be no more, neither sorrow nor crying, and neither shall be any more pain, for the former things are what? Gone. They're passed away. That should bring a smile to our face. That when we get up there, there's not going to be any sorrow. And I know it sounds corny. And it sounds almost, like a utopia type. But there's not going to be anything bad. It's going to be great. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I will make all things new. You notice that word's being put in there a whole bunch. New heaven, new earth. All former things are passed away, which means it's going to be new. I'm going to make all things new. Do you know how Paul describes somebody that has become a Christian? Or new. New man. Our old self is gone. There's nothing neater, even as an adult, to getting something new. Christmas time, you know why we like them presents? Because it's new. You know, I love new pair of tennis shoes. I love new stuff. We don't, when Ho-Ho's supposed to come this Christmas, if Ho-Ho was to bring, some Danny Lynn, some stuff that was junky and tore up, you know what she'd do? Seriously? You know, that's what she'd love. But it's new. It's just something about something new that is amazing. And it says, I am going to make all things, every bit of it, new. Everything. And it says, this is what is interesting. You remember in the book of Daniel, he tells Daniel, don't write this stuff down, put it in the book, seal it up. In this one, he says, write it down, for these words are true and faithful. And I like this. Do you remember back in the very first part of it, that Jesus Christ, or God, is telling John, I'm the beginning, the end, Alpha, Omega. And he said unto me, it is D-O-N-E, done. You notice the last time that God said that? It is finished. It is finished. You know what? This is also reputation. Same thing, but different changes. You got it is finished on the cross. What is finished? The redemption story. That is what was finished on the cross. A way to heaven. Sin being we can be brought into the presence of God. Sinful man can be made holy, brought into the presence of God. That is what is finished. What is done is sin's gone. Even though Jesus Christ died on the cross, sin still existed on earth, right? But now it's gone. He says, it is done. And he says, I am the beginning and the end, the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. And I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of water of life freely. There's going to be water. No more sea, but it's going to be water. You know where it's going to be coming from? God himself. He says, he that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. He that overcometh shall inherit. That is, whatever God has, guess what I get? Same thing. Now, and it says that it overcomes. That is to resist evil, to resist Satan, to resist the world, the things of the world. He says, if you do that, if you shall overcome, you're going to inherit everything. Everything. You know, it'd be sad if you had a rich uncle. I've always heard about these people who has a rich uncle that dies. And he leaves you Bentleys and houses and oceanfront property, all this kind of stuff, but he doesn't leave you the money to pay the taxes on it. What good is it? You know what you're going to have to do? You got to turn around and sell it. But wait a minute, you got to find somebody to sell that stuff for you. And more likely you're going to get ripped off because you got to find a lawyer to, you know. There's always, but when you get all things, that's like, I like homemade chocolate pie with the meringue on it. Imagine, you like it too, Ron? Imagine Janet's going to make him a homemade chocolate pie, and all she puts is meringue in it. There's something missing, isn't it? It ain't all there. The chocolate's missing. But what is neat about God, He says, I'm going to give you everything I've got, you're going to have it. And it says, and I will be His God, and He shall be my son. We often think that God only has one son. It will. How many sons has God got? I know one, two. I know we got in here. He's got billions. Because He said, and imagine how God loved Christ. Imagine how He loves us. And it says, but this is, and you always got to put the bad in it just for a little bit. But, and this is a reminder not to the people that is going to this new heaven and going to this new earth and have the new heavens and the new Jerusalem. This is a warning, a reminder. But the fearful, who did Jesus Christ say to fear? God. Don't fear man. What He is saying is, if you're afraid to speak my name, to proclaim my name, to proclaim my goodness, to proclaim my salvation, the fearful, the unbelieving, the abominable, the murderers, whoremongers, sorcerers, idolaters, all liars want to have their place in the lake of fire which burneth with brimstone, which is the second death. That's a quick reminder. It's almost a reality check. And I believe He puts that in there so that when we read about this new heaven and this new earth and we see all this grand stuff, that we don't get caught up into it too much, that we don't still, like Paul says, on a daily basis, we need to examine ourselves. And there came unto me one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials full of the 7 last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, and I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. Guess who's going to be there? That's church, isn't it? He's going to show the bride, the Lamb's wife. And He carried me away in the Spirit to a great high mountain, and showed me that great city, Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God, and her light was like a stone of most precious, even like jasper stone, clear as crystal. That is also, if you look that up in the Greek, it's going to be a light that was a stone of diamond. In the Old Testament times and even in the New Testament times, they said Jerusalem, I'm fixing to hush, they said Jerusalem was known as a diamond on the hill, because when they would have the celebration of lights, what they would do is that when Jesus Christ stood and said, I am the light of the world, this happens during that dedication or the dedication of the temple. What they would do is everybody that was in Jerusalem at that time would put a candle in the window. If you had a house that had 3 windows, you made sure all 3 windows had a candle in it. They said in Herod's temple that there was a gigantic candelabra that hung down, and it had these crystals and diamonds that was draped all around it. If you ever have a chandelier, imagine it just being 10 times bigger. And when they would put these candles in there, and that light from that candle would hit those diamonds, it would reflect. And they said that even Josephus said that if you were standing at a distance, even 5 miles from Jerusalem, it looked like a diamond that was sitting on top of a hill. That is how Jerusalem is described, and that is how Jerusalem is being described in John. Now it says, I'm going to leave it here. And it had a great wall, verse 12, and high. This is interesting. Had 12 gates, and the gates 12 angels, and the names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. We're going to leave it there. Heavenly Father, we love you and we thank you. Thank you, dear God, that you're preparing a place for us. Thank you, dear God, that you're going to come and bring us to that place that you are preparing. As marvelous and as amazing and as awesome as that place is, Help us to keep in mind, dear God, that it is our duty and it is our job to tell people about a place like this. And the only way to get to that place is through the blood of Christ. We love you and we thank you. Forgive us of where we failed you. In your name we pray. Amen.